Hey guys, welcome back to another video from Hoops Empire. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the Boston Celtics again, and how the lack of free agency moves has made me question what direction the organization might be heading in. Before we start, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, turn on that notification bell, and let's get into it. To recap the offseason to this point, the first domino to fall was hiring former head coach Brad Stevens as the replacement president of basketball operations in lieu of Danny Ainge's departure from the organization. They had long had their differences in terms of ideal roster construction, and I, for one, was happy with the front office change. Stevens wasted no time and made the swap between Kemba Walker and Al Horford, giving the team some front court help and overall reliability. Soon after, he acquired Josh Richardson from the Dallas Mavericks for Moses Brown and using the rest of the Gordon Hayward trade exception after the departure of Evan Fournier to the New York Knicks. The Tristan Thompson trade finally processed, making Dunn and Fernando a part of the Boston Celtics. It is worth noting that all of Josh Richardson, Chris Dunn, and Bruno Fernando all are expiring deals. So one thing is quite clear so far. Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics are trying to keep the cap sheets as clear as possible for the 2022-23 offseason. The most obvious reason, as I have alluded to before, would be to sign then impending free agent and long-rumored friend of Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal. I have broken down multiple times what would have to occur to sign Bradley Beal, and it is not ideal whatsoever, but it is doable. However, things have changed quite a bit. When the new 2021-22 cap year started, the official cap projections came out for this year, as well as new projections for the 2022-23 season. This is largely in favor of the Celtics, as the projected cap increased from $115 million to a little over $119 million. It may not seem that significant, but it is the difference for Boston between bringing back more reliable depth along with Beal and not. So, looking at these updated projections, what would the Celtics have to do to clear up that illustrious maximum spot? For starters, Tatum and Brown are supposed to make $57 million combined. Add in a waived and stretched Al Horford contract, and you're looking at a minimum of a $62 million cap hit if all other team options are declined and cap holds renounced. This includes players like Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, Romeo Langford, and Grant Williams. If all of these cap holds are renounced, the Celtics would be looking at roughly $57 million in cap space, well over a max space. Now, I am not going to predict that Bradley Beal takes any less than he can get. Although it is a possibility, it is just too hypothetical. He can make about $42 million in year one. So what does that mean for cap flexibility? That means about $15 million to work with. If I am Boston, I would pick up the team options on both Aaron Nesmith and Peyton Pritchard. They are cost effective, and they have been the two best Boston rookies this past year, and I don't expect that to change on this year's roster. Their options combined makes up exactly $6 million, so we are left with another $9 million to spend. Depending on the season he has, both in terms of health and production, I would use this money to sign Robert Time Lord Williams to a 3-year, $25 million contract. Now who knows, that is probably not even enough. However, you could structure the deal so it's even more, but a larger annual increase than a usual contract. This would allow the Celtics to have Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Bradley Beal, Robert Williams, Aaron Nesmith, and Peyton Pritchard already on the roster before going into veteran minimums and mid-level exceptions. There is a possibility to build a better than previously thought roster without having to as severely gut the entire team to attain that third star. A Bradley Beal, Jaylen Brown, Aaron Nesmith, Jason Tatum, Robert Williams starting lineup in itself would be pretty solid, let alone whatever free agents they get or whatever leaps Aaron Nesmith takes. However, even with this being said, a recent report from a local Celtics beat reporter said that the Celtics are looking to extend Marcus Smart to a roughly $17 million per deal for 4 years. This would come out anywhere from $68 million total at a flat rate, or if there's annual increase, it could come out to $77 million total. Whatever it may be, it is a bit confusing. If the Celtics truly want to create maximum cap flexibility, this was not the route to go. It either means the Celtics are truly committed to Marcus Smart, or it could actually push them closer to that star acquisition, depending on the route they would like to acquire it. Using that Smart contract as a trade piece if signed now, or as a sign and trade piece if they wait until next offseason to extend him. But if it is truly the first option, that would mean the Celtics retain the other free agents listed before, being Robert Williams, Aaron Nesmith, and Peyton Pritchard, as well as re-signing Smart to a 17 per. This would have the Celtics at roughly $93 million on the books, or $26 million in feasible cap space. This is plenty of room to go for multiple middle-level free agents, one higher-level free agent, or a solid amount of lower-level contributors. The Celtics could have Smart, Tatum, Brown, Williams, Nesmith, Pritchard on contract and go for guys like Ricky Rubio, Jonas Valanciunas, Joe Ingles, Aaron Gordon, Goran Dragic, and Thaddeus Young, and plenty of others in a loaded free agency class. Either way, the Celtics should be in a good situation next year, whether they have that third star or if they retain Smart and Williams and get other solid free agents to round out the 15-man roster. So I don't think it is as much of a Beal or bust as some have said. There are still plenty of ways to make this a good team next offseason, even with all these expiring contracts. But what about this year? Can the Celtics really afford to spend any of the Tatum and Brown extension years on a bridge year? Can they sacrifice a year of contention for the idea that a better roster could be on the way in another year? I feel like Stevens at least has to make it seem like they are trying to make them a contender. Go get hard capped. Make some sort of move that can make this team a semi-contender now. A team that Tatum and Brown can ascend their level of play and possibly make them a real contender. Tatum and Brown alone are very good, but no one can do it alone. As of right now, the team has a top 6 of Smart, Josh Richardson, Brown, Tatum, Horford, and Williams, which isn't a terrible top 6. You have a good mix of defense, offense, and star power. However, it's what the Celtics have or don't have outside of those 6 that is very worrisome. The bench is non-existent as of right now, and even one deal could make a difference. The most recently reported player the Celtics have interest in is the thumbnail of this video, Dennis Schroder. The interest was a bit random and did not exactly make sense at first. The Celtics realistically only have a mid-level exception to offer, and because Dennis is obviously worth more than a vet minimum, it is hardly worth mentioning that as a possibility. Jake Fisher of Bleacher Report, who has gained traction as a legit source, reported that the Celtics have engaged in ongoing talks with Schroder, and both sides are interested in a deal. However, the Celtics are looking for short-term, as in 1 year, and Schroder is looking for a longer-term deal, with more guaranteed money. However, I personally think it could be in both sides' best interest to do a short-term deal. On the Schroder front, he is clearly not worth as much as he had hoped coming into free agency, reported to have wanted a near-max contract at times. If he goes to Boston, he would most likely be the starting point guard on the Celtics, who hope to make some noise in the now loaded Eastern Conference. It could be the perfect opportunity for Dennis to prove that he is worth a larger contract, that he can be a solid contributor on a championship contending team, while playing for a smaller contract. His scoring ability, coupled with his solid playmaking and defense, is exactly what Boston could use. Gives them much better depth as well, purely by addition to a weak roster. If he does decide to sign with Boston, I think it makes the offseason a win. If not, then I think Boston is either the same or worse than last year. Schroder is an improvement over Walker. Not exactly in skill, but in availability. Dennis has never missed 25% or more of a season. Walker has done it both of the last 2 seasons. Adding Al Horford into that mix and subtracting Tristan Thompson is another big win. Then whatever improvement you get from Jason and Jalen and some of the higher ceiling bench guys, and you got yourself a solid roster. Whatever does end up happening, it should be a fun season regardless. Thank you guys for watching the video. Let me know your thoughts as well as if you think Schroder would fit nicely on this Boston Celtics team. Before we go, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below, turn on the notification bell, and hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed. But most importantly, have a good one.